Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's Claritysoft training webinar. Today is Tuesday, July 30th, 2019. I'm Susan Arnold, Implementation Specialist here at Claritysoft, and our topic for today is exploring custom fields in Claritysoft. When you get your Claritysoft database, one of the wonderful things that you can do with it is you can customize it to make it fit your particular business. So today we're going to talk about all those different types of custom fields that are available and show you ideas on how to use them in the database. So I have just a simple database, and we're just going to add all kinds of different custom fields and show you how they work, hopefully triggering some ideas for your own database. And you can go back and maybe do some exploring on how to add some different things to your already existing database that you have. Just as a comment, some of the fields that you will see me use today, you may not have available in your Claritysoft database. It depends on the level of Claritysoft that you have licenses for. So if you're very interested in some of these types of data fields, you may need to talk to your account rep. Also, if you're not an admin user in the database, you won't be able to go and add these kinds of fields, but you certainly can learn about them so you can go back to your admin user and say, hey, I have some good ideas for our database. So as we work, we'll build an example of each field type and then set it up in the user interface template, which if you've done this, you should know how to do. And then how those fields actually work. We'll open the record and enter data into them so you can see how they actually work in your record. And then as we talk, I'll also mention different design tips and hints for creating data flow from module to module within the database. There is a Q&A panel in the Zoom meeting. If you have any questions, please type those in the Q&A panel, and then I will get to those sometime during the session today. And so just sit back and relax now, and I'm going to go ahead and get started as soon as I find my Claritysoft. So here I have just a simple database set up. Basically, it's straight out of the box, so to speak, where I have not added any kind of custom fields in here. It's just the same simple custom fields. Actually, these two have been set up, and that's it. So nothing fancy. Most of the fields that we're going to add today will be in the accounts module, just because it's easier to do it that way, not because you have to do it that way. Okay, so we're going to begin to work our way through. One of the things I will mention is in the support portal. If you go to the question mark and go to support portal, and then in the search, type custom fields, you will come up with CS Live custom fields. This will give you a list of all the custom field types that are available, a description of what it does, and then the maximum number of characters that you can enter into that field. So this can be very helpful for you to read over before you start to add some fields, again, to get some ideas. And so it'll give you a little sample over here of what it looks like. So this is a good place for you to start. And then this is a little description about adding custom fields, a quick little video. But we'll be going into lots of detail on that, okay? All right, so let's just dive in here. To add your custom fields, first of all, if you're just starting with Claritysoft and you're going through our implementation program, our Quick Start program, your implementation specialist is going to sit down with you and maybe your team and start to discuss, well, what are the different kinds of custom fields do you want in your database? What are ways you need to search? What are ways you need to categorize? Things like that, so that you'll begin to get an idea of the types of fields that you need. And then we'll begin to make suggestions to you. Well, you could create, say, a status field in accounts that says whether they're a customer or a prospect or a vendor or a supplier, those kinds of things. What market segment are they in? So those are the kinds of things you want to think about when you first start designing your database. And then what modules should those fields be in? Is it something that has to do with accounts? Is it a field that works better at the contact level with the person because you're trying to find out something personal about that person and track it? Is it better in the opportunities module because it has to do with the sale opportunity that you are trying to win, and you want information in there about the type of product category or things like that? So you want to sit down and think through how you want the data structured, and then you begin to build it. You go to your settings, and then under here, you go to customization. And under customization, you have all the different modules, plus the user interface templates, which is where you place your fields once you've set them up or created them. So I'm going to go to Accounts module, and under here, I have Custom Fields. So once you're on this topic on the left, on the right, you see a green Add button, and you can begin to add your fields. So the first one I'm going to create is just a simple text field. Text fields just allow you to type any kind of text in it. It would be any combination of characters and numbers. This type of field you'd want to use if the data that you're typing into it needs to be unique per record. It's not something that can be standardized in any way. And the reason for that is text fields, depending on the way people think, they may type different kinds of answers in. So if it's something that you want somewhat standard, you want to create a drop-down list, which we'll do in a minute. So for this one, I'm just going to create a field called ID code or number. Just, again, it could be anything that is specific to a particular record. And when you click on the data type, you will then see all of your data types. And again, like I said before, you may not see all of these. You may only see part of these. So that means that you don't have access to all of the different data types in Claritysoft according to the level you have purchased. So I'm choosing text. Enabled means that the field is enabled and visible in the database. So if you put a field in and then later you decide you don't really want it, you may not want to delete it from the database, because if you delete it, you delete all the data along with the field. You could just disable it, and then it's still holding the data in the data table underneath, but it's not showing anywhere in the database. So I'm going to save it, and I get my first field here. So that's there. If I need to edit it for some reason, I can click either on the field name, which is a blue hyperlink, or I can slide to the row action button and edit it. Okay, so either way will work. I'm going to add my next field, which I am going to create as a drop-down, and I want this one called Market Segment. Choose drop-down. Now the difference between a drop-down and a drop-down multi-select, a drop-down gives you a single selection. You can pick one of the choices. In the drop-down multi-select, you'll have checkboxes and you'll be able to select multiple choices, which you'll see shortly. So my market segment is okay. These seem a little bit unrelated, but my particular little sample database that I have here, pardon me, has been set up where I am a vendor for dishware, flatware, glassware and table linens. So I sell to restaurants, educational institutions, and healthcare facilities. So that's why they seem they might seem a little bit odd. Okay, so I've got my drop down, and then I'm going to add a drop down multi-select, and this one is going to be product interest. And they may be interested in more than one line of my products. So I'm going to put in all right. And then the next one, I want to know, when I'm working with people, I want to discover, well, approximately how many people per day do they serve, because that would give me a sense of how many sets of dishes they might need. So I'm going to add that one, and this will become a number field. Now I can put in here, this is what people start to do a lot of times, number of people served. Well, that is a great big long title for something that's not going to have a very wide set of data under it. And so when you're thinking of names for your fields, you want to think about, well, the data that's going to be in the field, what's the widest it might be? When you display these in a column, the title of this column is going to take up a whole lot of space across the page or the screen, and so you might not want to have it that wide when you're not going to have that much data underneath. So think about trying to keep your names somewhat equivalent in size to the data that's going to display. So I could simply take this down to number served. Okay, now notice I did put the number sign in. It will take it. You will find, though, when you type certain characters in some of your names, if you try to type a slash, it won't take it. You'll have to use a hyphen. It does take the pound sign. So just test it. When you click save, it'll yell at you if it doesn't like it. But there are certain special characters it does not like. So I have selected number. And then I get to choose, well, how do I want my number displayed? The default is with commas and 2 decimal places. Well, I don't need decimal places. I want it without decimals, but I still want commas. So you have 1 decimal, 2 with completely without format, where you can type anything you want and it'll display it, whichever way you type it. So I just want whole numbers here. So I've put my number field in, and I'm going to add a date field. This one's kind of goofy, but I just want to know what date they were established, just to know how long they've been in business. And then this is going to become a date time field. All right. So I've got that, and this gives me enough to start with. So what I do is I add my custom fields. If I need to edit anything, I can do that at any point in time, even after I have data in my database. If I wanted to add another option to my drop-down, I can open the field and I can go in and edit it, add it anywhere. Let's see, what else would I do here? Can't think of something to put in here. I'll just put in, I'll just put in a business. Okay, just so you can see that I can add to it. So you can edit these, you could change the name at any point in time. One thing you cannot do after you get going in here is you cannot change the data type, all right? For example, if I decided, oh, I wanted to change my market segment from a drop-down to a drop-down multi-select, if I try to do that, it's going, see what it does? First of all, it wipes out all my values, okay? And then when I click save, it's going to yell at me and say it's going to wipe out all my data that's currently in the database. So if you're already in a database that has data in it, you do not want to do this. So just be aware of that. A lot of times too, especially if I go into a text field and I wanted to change it to a drop-down, I can, but it's, again, it's going to yell at me that it's going to wipe out all the data. Here, let me type in. And if I click save, see, it says changing the data type will delete all associated data for this field. So you want to think ahead on this, and so that you're not wiping out data that you already have in your database. All right, so I've got enough fields here to work with. Let's say what we want to do now is we want to get these into our user interface template so that they're then in our record. If I were to log out, log back in, and go back to my record, I would not see these fields. All right, I have to put them into the UI template. So I go on the left, click on that, come on the right, and choose the account UI template. That's where I created the fields, so they need to go in the account record. Here, you choose an access profile. You can have different access profiles in your database, and depending on how yours is set up, you might have different ones than what you see here that are custom ones, and you have to decide, well, where do I apply my changes to the screen layout? You can have a different screen layout for each access profile. I'm going to go to the base template because this is kind of my master, and it shows me my basic screen layout that I have, and then over here in the available fields column, I see my fields that I just added. So I just grab and drag them across and place them where I want them to go. All right. So I'm just going to bring these over here. And you can move your fields anywhere that you want. Oh, maybe I'll stick this one over here. If I decided I wanted all of these fields in the middle column, I could shift my address fields over to here. You also have three tabs available in your record. And you can, if you add a field here, then that tab will show up. And these are already renamed, but we can name them anytime. So I can move things anywhere that I want. And for right now, I'm going to pull this down here just to show you what will happen. So I get my fields laid out. The next thing you can do with your fields is you can control whether a field is required or not in your record. So if you want someone to always enter a phone number at the company level, then you can make that company phone field required. Don't go crazy and make everything required, because a person cannot save a record unless all that data is filled in. So kind of test the waters with this a little bit. I'll do this for now so that you can see what happens. But all your fields will be here, and your custom fields are down here at the bottom of the list in green. So you just want to make sure that all the fields that you want to be able to see are marked as visible. Read only means that the data that's in that field cannot be edited or changed by anybody. So this would be if you were importing data. Maybe you're importing some financial data into a record on a regular basis that you're bringing from another source, and you're updating your Claritysoft records with that data. You could mark those fields as being read-only, and then the people can see the information, but they can't change it. So that's the purpose of that. And we do have a few people that do that sort of thing. So once I've got it all set up, Then I can save. And it tells me it saved it. And then what I want to do, because this is my master template, my base template, I want to copy it to the other templates that I'm actually using. So in my database, I'm using the all access profile and the individual access profile. Now you can just copy it to everything. That's fine. In fact, that's usually what I tell people to do. So you can do that, and then it copies to all, but I want to leave these unchecked for right now because I want to show you how it works. So you check the ones you want, click Save, and then it copies my layout that I did here to the all profile, okay, and the individual profile. Now, if I switch to the manager one, notice the screen is different because my fields are still over here. So that's what you do. So the copy to, copy from of the base template or any other template is really nice to have. All right, so once I've done that, then I can log out and log back in. And when I open my record, there's my field. So my ID code field, can be anything like that. That might be caps. Okay, so that's just a text field. I can type up to 4,000 characters in there, but I wouldn't want to read it. And I'm going to remove the phone number right now for a reason. Okay, and then here's my market segment. I can choose what they are. They're in the education segment. Product interest is my drop-down multi-select, so I can choose they want this and this. That's their interest. Number served is a number, and if I try to type anything but a number, I'm hitting the letters on my keyboard and it won't take it, but as soon as I type a number, it takes it, okay? So this might be in this school, I don't know, in that whole school district, okay? So you just fill it in, the type of data that you've required it to be is what you can fill in. So I have that, and then here's the date established. When I click in there, I get a little date. Now, here, this is going to be at the current date, but this building might have been built in, 1950. So you could do, I don't know, let's see, 01 hyphen, doesn't really matter the exact date, 1982. So you can type it in and then it brings it to that date. You don't want to scroll it. So, you can type a date, or if it's a current date, you can just go to it if it's close. Okay. And then I'm just hitting the tab key to move on. Lead source is another custom field that's already here. So I have that. I can save and close. Now, when I do a save and close, this is my required field. It says, whoop, can't save this without the company phone having data in it, okay? So that's what will happen when you do the required fields. And if you make 6 or 7 fields required, sometimes your people will get super frustrated because suddenly they have to fill all these things in that they might not have just yet. So like I said, be careful on what you do there. Oops. Okay, so now when I do save and close, it lets me. But that can be good because it does force people to at least find a phone number and put it in. They may not have the address or something like that. Or perhaps at the contact level, you want them to get an email address. So you can put those things in. So that's basically how you do it. You decide the type of field you want, you put it in, you add it to your user interface template, log out, log back in, and you're good to go. So now let's go add some of the more exciting kinds of fields. I'm going to go back to customization and accounts. And what I want to add now is what's called a drop-down dependent field. So I'm going to add the field. I'm going to call this market subgroup. Not a very clever name. And then my data type is going to be drop-down dependent. And what this means is this drop-down is dependent upon another drop-down list. And so what happens is that now you can see this has changed where it's asking for a parent field. The parent field needs to be a drop-down single select type field. So it found market segment. It was the only other one that was a drop-down single select, so it pulls it into the parent field, but if you have more than one, you'll get a list here of which one to pick from. Then when you select your parent field, it puts the values that you have in that field listed here in the parent values. Now what you have to do is add, well, what drop-down values go with each of these? So for example, when I click on restaurant to select it, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to type franchise or private. Those are my two types of restaurants that I have. Then I can click on education. And then I come in and put my choices in here. So I have public, private, university. Again, whatever choices you come up with. Business, maybe this might be a private business or government, something like that. And then healthcare facility can be a hospital, assisted living. Again, I'm sure you're thinking of ways you could do this. So when I click back on restaurant, I see the choices there. So I see each of my sets of choices that I'm going to get when I select from my parent field. I'm going to save that. All right. Then I'm going to create another one that's called a text-dependent field. And it's similar to the drop-down dependent, but it returns a block of text. So first of all, I'm going to add another drop-down. And my drop-down values are going to be now this could be something maybe in the insurance industry where it could be plan options and you could have different types of plans listed here. Okay, and then I'm going to add my text dependent field, and this would be and this is going to become a text dependent. Now you have two, a text dependent multi-line and a text dependent single line. So if it's going to be a longer description, you can choose a multi-line field and that would display a larger box for the text. And then a text-dependent single line would be a single line of text. So let's pick this one. Okay, so just like here now, it's looking for market segment, but that's not what I want. I want options. Okay, so now I have my option A, option B, option C. So oh man. Okay, so before we leave that, we'll select it and copy it. Oh, and then here you can set your field height, how many lines high you want it to be. So default is 3, so you can increase it. So again, you can type pretty good amount of text in here. You can set that. Oops, I forgot to do my other options. Okay. And then option C. All right. So I've saved that one. Another one that comes up fairly often during implementations is people want to connect a company, an account, to a parent company or some other corporate entity that they are under. And that's often a question of how to handle that. And previously, we used to just create a drop-down list, or that would be the next question, how many are there? And then we could see if we could do it that way. Because again, we don't want to have to type it if at all possible, because people won't type the company name the same way each time. If ABC Company is the parent company for someone, one person might just type ABC, another person might type ABC Company, another one might type just ABCCO. So you get all these different spellings if it's a text field, and then searching becomes a little difficult. So what we now have available is what's called a lookups field, which is really nice because as long as you add the company that is the parent company as an account in Claritysoft, then it becomes part of this lookup field. So I'm going to call this parent company. And then I'm going to choose lookups. And when you create a lookup field, you can connect it to accounts, contacts, or a user in your database. Okay. So this one, the user could be used sometime. Again, another one that comes up is Claritysoft has an owner for fields, and sometimes people want two people connected, two of your sales team connected to the same record. And so you could use a lookup type field that points to the users to be able to pull in another person and say, oh, this is the secondary, person that works with this account or contact. But we're going to go to accounts here and click save. And you could do another one, like, for example, if you were connecting, it might not be a parent company. Maybe you're connecting your person, your company, to a law firm or an accounting firm or an insurance firm or something like that. So you could have the law firm as an account lookup, and then you could have a contact lookup to find the attorney's name that they work with. So there's a lot of ways you can use this, and you can have multiple lookup fields in your record. So some would point to accounts and some would point to contacts. Another one would be for, say, project managers. If there's a company you work with on a project that the project management firm or the engineering firm is this, and the person is this person. So you can use this in a lot of different ways. All right, so we've got a lookup field. And let's go one more here. The other field that is a nice one to have, that again has been requested many times and we finally added it, is a calculated field, where you can create a calculation based upon another field in the record. So I'm going to create one called number of meals. And again, these are pretty simple. And that is a calculated field. So when you choose that, it asks, well, what return type do you want? You can have text returned, a number, percent, currency, or a date time. I want a number, okay? And again, it's going to give you what number format do you want. I want a whole number. And then down here is where I'm going to create my calculation. Well, this one is really simple because I'm going to take my field that is the number of people and multiply it times 3 meals per day, okay? So my field number of meals is going to be equal to, and then I click in here, go to insert fields, and it brings up all my fields that are in my account record, okay? So here's number served. And then I can click here and I can go to the operator and choose what operator I want, which is the multiplication. And then I can type the number 3. So that's pretty simple. But if you look over here under function, you can see that you have a whole lot of Excel functions that you can have access to. And so you can use all of these, pull in fields. Now, the one thing you need to remember is you cannot base a calculated field on another calculated field, okay? It has to be based on a field in your record. But you can create some pretty complex types of formulas with this, calculating dates. You know, if you needed to calculate sort of an expiration date or this needs to be done by this date, you can create a formula doing that. So if you have calculated fields, dig in and start playing with them. And then once I have this, I go down here and click Save. Now, what may happen is you can get error messages like this, okay? And you just say, oh, well, it wants a parenthesis. So if I go and put my parentheses in and then save. So the syntax in the calculated fields is similar to Excel, but it's also a little bit different. So when you get those error messages about the syntax, you might have to play around with it a little bit to get the right parentheses or brackets and things in there. And if you get super stuck, call tech support. They'll help you. But it's really nice, and you can create some very sophisticated kinds of formulas in there. I did one that's really simple. Okay, so we've got that. One more field here. Let's see, and then we'll go do our UI template. There's another field called a text wrap field that's just, again, it's a text field, but it, I'm just going to call it longer text. It allows you to type multi-line text, and it wraps within the size. And then again, you can choose the field height, how tall you want it to be. I'll make it 4. So now we need to go back to our UI template and pull all these fields in. So I'll go to my base template again, and let's see. Now the market subgroup I want to put next to the market segment because they work together now, all right? Options and options details I want to put together, so let me come down here, put this in here. And then the number of meals, we can have the number served, and then the number of meals will calculate off of that. And parent company can come up here, and longer text, I'll just stick here, okay? Not exactly the best organized screen, but it gives you an idea. So I'm going to save it. And then I want to copy it. And I'm just going to check all this time. Save time. Oops, did that wrong. I need to save it. Oh, I missed the check all. There we go. Okay, now we'll log out. Okay, and if we go back in here, you can see here's parent company. This is a lookup field, and so I get this little spyglass to click on for searching. And what happens is this is going to show you a complete list of all the accounts in the database. So with only 4, it's easy to see what I want, but if I had a great big long list, and I know that big hospital system is the parent company, actually I should go to the one that's a hospital, and then I just click on it to link it, and then it's in there, okay? If for some reason I decide I want to unlink it, I just click on here and you'll see unlink, and it will remove it. So that's how you delete the text or the data that's in there, okay? So that's very easy to do. This could be if it's a school, individual school, you could link it to the district, school district if you had that in there, so, or a hospital system or, you know, whatever. So we've got that. And then down here, the market segment, let me switch to restaurant. And if I go to restaurant, now my subgroup should be franchise and private, okay? If I come back up here and I switch back to education, then I can choose, well, is it public, private, or university? So this is a public school, let's say. So this drop-down dependent is really a nice one that you can build a drop-down list, and then when you pick something, you get another list that goes with the option you chose in the first list. This is a question that comes up relatively often, okay? Now the number served already had a number in here, and so it automatically calculated the 1200 times 3, okay? Now if I change this number, notice it does not calculate right away. What you have to do is come over and click the Save button, and then that forces the calculation, okay? So any calculated field, you just type whatever it's connected to, enter the data there, and then click Save, and it will calculate. And notice you can't type in this at all. It's completely locked, so you can't enter anything. All right, now let's go to our other tab. Notice now the second tab shows up because I put fields on that tab. And here's my options. I choose option A, and there's my text dependent field. If I choose option B, I get the text dependent on that. So again, creative ways that you can use this in the system. Just think about it. So if you need more than just another drop-down, you just need a block of text return for something, then you can use the text dependent field. And then the longer text field, again, notice the box, and I can just type and type and type, and this holds up to 4,000 characters, so you can type a whole lot of text in here. So it's kind of like a big notes field in a sense. All right, and then I can do a save and close. So those fields are there, and we've just about completed everything. Oh, I know one I want to bring up because this comes up often too. In the opportunities record, we have Oh, I have no opportunities. Okay. We have a field that goes along with the sales stage called probability. So when I choose a sales stage in my settings, I have set up the percent probability that connects to that sales stage, okay? And it's there kind of to prevent those really super duper salespeople that think they always have a 100% chance of winning something, even when they're at the very early stages. It sort of forces them to look realistically at the percent. So it's there for that tool. But one of the things that I get questions a lot of times is people say, I don't want to use this because it's different with each person. And so that's fine. So what we usually do is we create a custom field called my probability, as long as it's different than probability, and set it as a percent type field, and then they can type in their own percentage. And you can either decide to remove this probability from view and just have your own probability there, or you can leave it there and see what the probability that whoever designed this thinks is the real one versus what the salesperson thinks at any point in time. So that's the purpose of that. So let me do a save and close here just so we do have an opportunity. And we'll go add a custom field for my probability. So now we're not going to accounts anymore. We're going to opportunities and custom fields. Another one that people have used is gut percent. Whatever you want to call it is fine. Okay, so that one becomes a percent field. And again, you can have it as a whole number with 1 digit, 2 decimal digits, or this 2 is the default. So you decide what you want there, and then save it. And then I'm going to do another one that comes up in relation to this is a weighted amount field, where the person wants to know what is the, according to the percent probability, what is the weighted amount of an opportunity. You might have a $10,000 opportunity and you're at the 30% probability. So they want to know, well, what is that weighted amount? So that would become a calculated field. Oops, would help if I picked calculated, wouldn't it? Okay. And I can return it as currency. And then weighted amount is equal to, and that's going to be equal to, we could do my probability or we could just do the probability field, whichever you decide you want to use. I'll just use this one. And then again, it's going to be, hello, there, times the amount now here, I can't remember if we need to do the divided by 100 or not, so we'll see what we get. It might be wrong. I might have to come back in and fix it. So we'll see. We know we'll get an amount. Okay, so let's go to UI templates, go to opportunity. And to save time, we'll just go to the all template for right now, and we'll bring my probability over just so you can see the difference. And we'll put the weighted amount over here. and save. And then log out. Back to here. Okay, so we need to put something in our amount field. So if I put the 10,000 in, and then I'm going to come back over here and I'll back up to discovery, which is 30%. And then I'll come down and save. And we should get, okay, I needed to divide by 100. But you guys get the picture. Okay, I won't go back in and do it because I needed to divide by 100, which is fine. And then my probability, I could type in, well, I think I have a 50% chance of winning this, so it would put in the 50. And notice it puts the percent sign in the name of the field, so you know that is a percentage, okay? So that's that. So I think we've covered just about every one. Oh, one more. We now have a checkbox field that was recently added. Well, I don't know, the last 3-4 months. For those of you that maybe have been using Claritysoft for a while, and whenever you want to do like a yes/no kind of drop down to check something off, now you can create a checkbox type field. So if I go back to settings and I'll go back to accounts real quick. And let's say I want to know if their contract is on file. Again, you can have a lot of different checkbox for different things, documents you've collected or whatever. So here's checkbox. And save it, and UI template. And again, I'm just going to be lazy and go to all and drag this over here. I'll put it right here. Save. So now I have a checkbox for contract on file. I can click in that and it would show up. Now what will happen is if you needed to import into this, you would import yes, no. If you're importing into the other checkboxes that are built into Claritysoft, you import true, false. So that would be in the importer. And then again, all your custom fields that you've created can be pulled into your columns. So I can pull this over. You know, the different things that I want to see. We'll see how that shows up. You can put these in your columns. And so use the column setup so that you can see the data that you need to see in order to work with your records each day. Make this easy for you. This is all user controlled, so you don't have to, listen to anybody else. You set it up the way you want. You also can then very quickly and easily see where you're missing data and know, I need to fill this in. Another suggestion I make on this is whenever you're going to do some kind of a search, put the columns that you're searching on, make those visible so that when you do the search, you see what kind of results you're getting. You also see where you might be missing data. because you might do a search on something where the columns are mostly blank or all blank, and you get no records searching on it, and you don't know why, and you think it's a problem with the database. Well, if you bring the column into view, you find out, ooh, no, there's no data in that field. It's not Claritysoft, it's that we didn't fill in the data. So those are the kinds of things to do too. Well, that is all I have for today, and hopefully that helped some of you get some ideas on the custom fields that you can put into your database and give you some ideas to think about and go back and maybe try in your own Claritysoft database. I don't see any questions, so I guess we'll go ahead and close out for the day. And thank you for attending. We get a pretty regular crowd coming in each week, which is nice that you're coming back. I'm not boring you silly. So hopefully you're learning some good stuff. If you have questions, then you can either contact Linda or myself, your implementation specialist, or if you're out of that, then you can contact the support team at any time at 888-838-7487 extension 2, or email them at support@claritysoft.com. New ideas, we just put a new schedule up on the website for August, so go look at the topics there and you can register for those. They're all set and ready to go for August. And if you have any other new ideas, please let us know. Go have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.